What's up everybody, this is going to be your how-to video on the build of the Volk X and the Volk X. Here you have your 14mm bolts, 12mm bolts, and the 8mm bolts, both your braces, all 4 standoffs, your bottom plate. Now the bottom plate is directional. If you look here in the back, you can see that the spacing between the 30x30 and the standoff hole is much greater than it is here in the front. So the smaller spacing is the rear of the frame. Now in the X, you can always tell if it's a X arm by this slant right here. Really simple. That slant always points to the inside of the frame. And this is a X arm where it's just center of the frame and no cut, of the arm and no cut. Top plate, these holes right here are for your axle mounts, or you could fit a small zip tie to it if you don't want to use an axle. Here's the axle mount that goes with it. All right, let's start the build. So the way I build this frame is I start from the bottom up, assembling the arms first to the bottom plate with the braces installed. With the arm, when it's a X, like I said earlier, you want to make sure that that cut is facing the center of the frame. So those cuts on all 4 arms go towards the center. When you're using the brace, you want to make sure the protruding side of that pin nut is facing up. Flat part goes on the bottom. You're going to take your 12mm screw, and that's going to go through the outside part of the arm where it bolts to the frame. Like so. Now you want to make sure you don't screw these in too tight, because they do get tight really fast, and if you move that arm back and forth, it will get tighter. Those pin nuts do not move. Again, cut of the X arm facing inwards. 12mm screw. And you repeat for all 4 arms. All right, so for the standoffs, you want to use the 14mm screws. Now, you don't want to go too hard in 14mm if you want to use your own screws, because the standoff has a hard time grabbing if it's longer than 14mm. So 14mm is the perfect size. All right, so now we got the base of the frame put together for the most part. Easiest way to do this next is to add the axle mount when it's not attached to the frame, because it is a little more difficult to add once it is attached to the frame. So the axle mount sold separately, it will come with 2mm screw, 6mm 2M2 screws, and 2 M2 nuts that will complete. Now the axle mount is designed to go on top of the frame, doing our best to pull the axle and the RX tubes out of the prop line, so that way no matter what size props you use on this frame, as long as it fit the frame, you won't have any clearance problems when it pertains to the axle mount or RX tubes. Now I like to put my bolts on to TPU, so that way it has a little something to grab. You can install the other way where the bolts are on the carbon fiber side. I just prefer this way. Both ways work. And there you go. Axle mount is installed. Nice and snug. All right. So again, make sure you're paying attention to what is the rear of the frame and what is the front. when you go to put that axis in there again. Smaller distance goes to the rear of the frame. Larger distance goes to the front of the frame. All right, so for the camera mount, it's also very simple. The way the camera sits, it sits perfectly in the center. The lens is designed to fit perfectly in the center of the frame to give you max tilt. Now, the camera mounts are designed to butt up against the bottom of the frame, and it will center your camera perfectly. Use 8mm screws on the top, and with this frame comes 28mm screws, not 28, 20 of 8mm screws. And the reason that is because there's 5mm arms. So you get motor screws for your arms along with top plate screws. Now onto the stretch X. Before we start building it, I want to show you the battery pad. This is the battery pad. The thicker end of the battery pad goes towards the front of the frame. And if you look here, flip it for you. Remember the spacing, more spacing in the front, less spacing in the rear. Battery pad, thicker part goes towards the front, thinner part goes towards the rear. Here's a build tip for you. Install the top plate and tighten everything down without the TPU. It makes for a better build, easier time tightening standoffs. Once you've tightened the standoffs to as tight as you would like them to be, remove the top plate and install the TPU fin. All right, here we go. Just going to give it a quick tighten on all these bolts. Make sure everything's in place the way it's supposed to be. No movement where there's not supposed to be movement. I hope this video was quick enough for you and to the point. Here's your True X and your Stretch X Volk. I hope this video helped.